We have architect Sangeet Sharma here today with us. I'm not going to say give a very formal introduction because I don't think that's needed. But from my understanding of architect Sharma, his introduction to me happened because I recognized immediately that he is architect Shivdatt Sharma's son. There's a book in the library here of his work. And I think being the son of a great architect like that is not easy. But also growing up in Chandigarh, living in Chandigarh, and working there, it's going to be very nice to see what your story is. He's a writer, a poet, a singer, and a motivational speaker. So thank you, sir, for coming and being with us today.
Thank you so much. I've been speaking about this all day in the college. How it feels to be a son of an eminent father, and I always gave them example of a fruit and a knife. इधर से भी खुद ही करता है, इधर से भी खुद ही करते हैं. And when the worst time is when we were in school, and if I did something good, they would say अपने बाप से पूछ के आया होगा. If I did something bad, they would say इसको इतना भी नहीं पता. So it's difficult. That prompted me to write the book Architecture, Life and Me, which became a cult book for architecture reading, where I expressed myself, the growing up between that, having our own associations, the connections I made with my mind and with the body. So that became the book. Started writing, making diaries when we are not sure, or not exactly insecure, but when you're not sure, you start scribbling, and that's where the process of writing began. And after 2-3 books, the authorship happened. And the last book is Castles in the Air, friends. If you're able to grab that copy, or I'll send it to you. It's a satire on architecture. And after being very so-called intellectual writer, I cut my profession to bits. Because I always thought that we are, nakam mein rehne wale log hain hum log. So why not expose ourselves? So in all the aspects of architecture, I took it up. And I wrote about it very candidly, very plain writing I do. And that became a bestseller in fiction category in 2019, incidentally. Like Khrushchev said that Benja sir was very, very close, and people who are living their lives, or who are doing their architecture from the heart, and we have seen the masters do, I think they involve themselves, they involve with the problem. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of journey, what happened and how we go about. Father is 93, he's still working in the office, and these guys don't leave their pencils, I was talking about Samson and Delilah's story, where Samson had his strength in his hair, and somebody said, यार इसको मारना कैसे है, तो बड़ा powerful है, तो इसके बाल काट दो. So they somehow cut his hair, and he lost his strength. I think that generation of architects, उनकी सांसें pencil में बसती थी. My father is asthmatic from last 50 years, and he never coughs in the office. वो घर आते ही हाव करने शुरू कर देते हैं. And my mother says, अरे cough syrup दो. हम कहते cough syrup नहीं, pencil दो इनको. But the moment he catches the pencil, actually it vanishes, and he's a fresh man. And great, though that generation, as you said, Khrushchev, we are losing, and but somehow some of us have been lucky. When he has produced 2-3 generations of architects in our office. People are very grateful. So are we. So let me take you around the how we Chandigarh के साथ तो कुछ ना कुछ कनेक्शन सबका होता ही है. People do invite me. I'm here because of Kavita, and she's very kind. She called me to talk to the students. पहले भी उन्होंने बुलाया था मुझे. there's a connection. Most of the time when I keep on speaking, I keep talking here and there. So I ask, यार आप चंडीगढ़ गए हैं? Either it is नहीं, or it is हाँ 30 साल पहले गए थे because they were compelled to go because of their college tour. Then I wonder, and we keep talking among ourselves कि डैड अगर इतना impact था इस city का, modernism का, the way it started because of this, why it is not a part of the routine? Mr. Doshi came to us till 15 years when he became very unwell. Every year he would come and he would take me, चल संगीत चलते हैं, Capital Complex चलते हैं. I said, uncle यार वही every year same चीज. He would say, I am learning architecture. At the age of 85 he would say, I mean, look at that, the enigma of the place, of the person. और वो कर सकते थे तो बाकी लोग क्यों नहीं करते? Now after 25-30 years, I now realize I'm learning architecture. And when people come to us as a self-imposed problem, I would say, so we took it on us कि चलो यार हम आपको घुमाते हैं, ले जाते हैं. It became a phenomenon. And we have an A3 foundation where students all over the world comes to us. Anybody who comes, we just take them around, have a seminar. So, when I go abroad, I'm talking to my architectural fraternity. People actually, particularly in Europe, वो हमें ना हाथ लगा के देखते हैं. You're from Chandigarh, यार? I said, yeah. यार कमाल है. I mean, that's the kind of influence, impact they have there. और हम लोगों को अपनी विरासत का वैसे नहीं पता होता. We are like that. And Chandigarh is one of the modern heritage which I feel is being not really cultivated. I mean, it's something where we have grown. The whole of the architectural domain in India after partition was built because of the city. To quote a few, Mr. Doshi, of course, is the direct representation because he worked with Corbusier in France, but he would come every time, so he's associated. It is because of him that we have so many beautiful buildings in Ahmedabad. Mr. Rajriwal did not work with him, but he was highly influenced. So was Mr. Korea, Anantaraje sir, all those great masters. They attribute somehow, directly or indirectly, to Chandigarh architecture. So then I and my family, my friends like you, were discussing, यार अब क्या करें? मतलब it's something which is withering away, and how do we get across to people and tell them world comes to us, but how do I bring it to the Indian system? I mean, why are the students of architecture in India not motivated to see that place? It's Corbusier called it a living laboratory. And I asked, why laboratory word? He says, because everything was experimented for the first time. And believe you me, it's been 70 years. अभी भी लोग उसके डोर्स के ऊपर थीसिस कर रहे हैं. हम सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात करते हैं, ग्रीन एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा. It's amply implemented. And I mean, I know you all know everything. We get a little emotional while talking to this. So we always tell them that students say कि sir, how did they manage Indian conditions? I said 4 foreigners taught us the sustainable architecture. Foreigners. This whole Chandigarh is made by 4 foreigners. उन्होंने भी वो जूट उस टाइम अप्लाई किया था in false ceilings, and they had brick claddings, brick floorings, external lighting conduit systems, which are very manageable. And the ventilations on the pivots which would revolve with the ventilation breeze, amazing detailing. So Corbusier was a genius who did the master plan, the mastermind, and his cousin Genre, you all know, he was a man of details. And Corbusier was very clever. He knew he was bad in that, so he called him up and says, and they were not on talking terms for 10 years, if you know the stories. You know the stories? They fought because of a girl, as always. So there was a woman working with them, she was an interior designer. The story is that they had a conflict because she liked him and he liked her, etc., etc. It wasn't a Hindi film, but it happened. So anyway, he's called him back. Yeah, I got this job. Why don't you come over? So they united because of Chandigarh, and then came Maxwell Fry, Jane Drew. The Chandigarh team, you all know, went to Maxwell Fry to call him. He said, "No, I'm not the person. He is the person." Just imagine the magnanimity of those people. I mean, I'm amazed at that generation. Corbusier came Millowners Association because of Mr. Doshi. They went to Mr. Doshi. Mr. Doshi said, "Ki bhai mere ko nahi karne ka. He's a man here whom you should use the finest. He's a genius." That's how he came in. So passing on such projects of that caliber, understanding the value of architecture, I think that generation had it. We unfortunately may or may not have that, but I think it became a mecca all over the world. And I'm going to give you some history classes. All of you know what I'm going to speaking. I'll be speaking what you do not know only. अब जो लोग आते हैं हमारे पास, particularly foreigners, वो हमसे कहते हैं कि how is the Chandigarh city behaving after 70 years? Everybody knows Corbusier आए, बनाया, मर गए. As a matter of fact, till about 20-25 years ago, people used to ask me, आप क्या करते हो चंडीगढ़ में? कुछ है ही नहीं करने को. It's all about Corbusier. It's all about Cobb. And there's so many restrictions. I said, no, we are surviving. We are having bread and butter, so it's okay. So the continuity was never felt till the last 10-15 years when we started telling people that there is a legacy which continues. There are people who are still working, and what they learnt. I think all architects, by and large, attribute their learning to a master. It's good teachers who make architects, and they learn from master directly. So just imagine, my father tells me that we just call him and say that what is the height of this table? Approximately 2 feet something. They don't use the word approximately. Either you go measure it or tell me one thing which I will say right or wrong. That's the kind of education these people had from the masters, and my father worked with Perry Genre very closely. One of his books is published last month. They'd go back at 5 o'clock, and Mr. Genre would say, Shivdatt, come to my house, and we work at 6. So he would come on his cycle, because he would strictly prohibit no making use of official cars, stationery or anything. You buy, I buy, do it. So they would sit in the middle of the night and work. So they worked after office hours on 3-4 houses, private houses. What I'm trying to tell you, it took me 25 years to understand what was that which made these masters, including Mr. Doshi and other people who are so, they have that kind of reverence for the people from whom they learn. You hear Ramkulas, or you hear all those people. They always attribute, AA made me, and even Zahadir would say it's the teachers of the AA who made us, right, sir? Because they are the one who empower you. So this, I think, the legacy of Chandigarh got disconnected somewhere because of its. There was nobody to promote as such. We as a family. We are 4 in the family. We are the only family where 3 generations are working. My son is also working. He joined us 2 years ago. My wife is an architect. So the 3 generations actually are working with their hands. And we're a mid-size office, we work with ourselves. Then when people started asking us questions, why it's not documented in a specific way. There's a book which I wrote, it's called Cobb's Capital. It's translated into many languages because they want to know, acha, ab kya ho raha bhai? So they will tell them that 70 years ke baad, this is how the behavior of a city is taking place, because the masters envisaged it in a certain way. Is it working in that direction? Yes or no? That is for us to tell. If you people come tomorrow, आप लोग आएंगे तो मैं आपको बताऊंगा ना कि इस शहर में ये कमियां हैं, ये खामियां हैं, ये इसकी सक्सेस स्टोरीज है. I'm not going to go gaga over thing because we are not the custodians of the city, and but to tell put the thing in the right perspective, somehow we feel we took it on us. People down south don't even relate to this picture. Do you, anybody? I mean, the very question is, why was Chandigarh made? लोगों को इतना नहीं पता होता. I'm not saying कि आपको क्यों नहीं पता. आपको नहीं पता, मैं बताने वाला हूं आपको. There are thousands of people who don't know. People beyond North India don't even know the pain and pathos of this picture. People who left everything from Pakistan, came to India, Pakistan. I'm a son of a refugee. He left everything and came to India. They had acres of lands there and empty-handed. So how they survived all the starting from scratch. It's a great story. So Chandigarh was primarily made out of chaos in political life and personal life. 10 lakh people were displaced, thousands were killed, and I'm not saying it because of movies. My grandfather told me, my father is still living who tells me, and how these things happen. It's a great story of courage, and I think that was the thing which Pandit Nehru had, that political will to translate it into a new city, because he wanted India to usher into modernism, into the modern world, and nothing better than architecture. B, he had to show some respect and identity because of the Punjabis who came across the border. C, he was clever man. Prime Minister of India, he was clever man. He knew that the moment he would bring in something of this stature, automatically there will be a lot of other inputs in the country. So he was personally one-to-one with Corbusier. We have all his letters, all his files. He was very angry sometimes, and as usual, there were a lot of payment issues which even he had. Imagine even Corbusier had. So we all have, and so he had written nasty letters to Prime Minister that this is not done, this is no way. I was very happy reading that. कि हम ही नहीं हैं वो लोग. A lot of time people ask me कि सर वो लियोनार्डो डा विंची ने बनाया ये वाला, उसके बाद कर्बूजियर भाई ने बनाया ये मॉड्यूलर, बीच में 100 साल क्या हुआ था? I mean, 100 years, we never had a kind of a scale. We only had this scale. Nobody had the acumen and the element of getting the human scale right, or something to calculate dimensions with. But सोचने की बात है, and this question was asked to me by some Iranian architect who came finding some answers into concrete buildings. There's no answer to this, and I think it's like they say that the last Christian died on the cross because nobody else could actually understand what he was professing. Similarly, this modular, there are very few people who actually know its calculations. उन्हीं को पता था, वो बना के मर गए. That's the whole story. So in Chandigarh, we have a door height as 6 feet 9 inches and not 7 feet because of the modular calculations. So इसके हिसाब से the whole, and very few people know the whole of the capital complex, whole of the city sectors is based on the golden section. We talk of very beautiful books like War and Peace and Tolstoy, Shakespeare. उनको हम सजा के रखते हैं, हम पढ़ते नहीं हैं. That's the tragedy with those books, because A, they are very huge, B, they are difficult. So चंडीगढ़ का जो फिनोमेना है हम सजा के रखते हैं, हम उसको पढ़ते नहीं हैं, एक्सपोज नहीं करते हैं. I'm talking to architects, I know that. एंड अभी सर से पूछा, सर लास्ट कब आए थे आप? 30 साल पहले. अरे बीच में क्यों नहीं आए? कोई वीज़ा थोड़ा लगता है उसका. आई मीन इट्स, एंड यू बी सरप्राइज टू नो सर, 30 साल पहले भी बिल्डिंग आपने ऐसी देखी थी, ऐसे ही चाहिए बिल्कुल. इट्स नॉट एन आयोटा. आई मीन नो bureaucrat could have the courage to demystify the capital complex. There's a strange kind of love which public have for their city. मैंने ऐसा कभी देखा नहीं है फिनोमेना. आई मीन अगर वहां पे कोई गंदी बिल्डिंग बनाता है तो रिक्शा वाले बोलेगा सब क्या बना दिया बेकार एकदम. आई मीन दैट्स अ काइंड ऑफ association they have with the buildings. It's, I don't know how the, I think in my opinion जब हम बात करते हैं attitude, as I say, percolates from the top. I was telling Kavita also, because she's so hardworking, the whole team is so hardworking. These people, these masters, they're very hardworking, and they were called the monks of Chandigarh. You know, all know the stories, but I'm telling you something different. Corbusier and John Ray had two suits only, and they would live like that. And austerity, Le Corbusier said, that keeps your mind engaged. A little hunger in your stomach keeps you active and alive. You know, when you overeat, you tend to sleep. क्या beautiful sayings हैं इन लोगों की. Amazing the humanity which they teach us, and we like to work on that. ये एक एक टेपेस्ट्री के ऊपर people are doing thesis. 70 years, every month we have people who want to do research, thesis, study on this. Must be something right. And each time we enter this assembly building, I don't know if you people have gone, you must come. Suddenly the scale, you can see the human scale on the left hand side. You enter into this kind of a lofty scale, and the human being is so much. So the magnanimity of the space is so engrossing before you enter into the High Court. The legal system is so powerful or so dominating that he's trying to tell that don't try to play with this system. You are a small fry, and you are a small person there. So you enter into this into this hall from this scale. ये हमें 20 साल लगे समझने में. Then we discovered some letters, some literature. I asked my dad. He could also joggle his memory. He says, "यार मुझे पता नहीं है. I wasn't working with him on this. He worked with him on the museum, the whole cultural belt." Then we found that this is the kind of thing. I mean, there's a enormity. There's a kind of reasoning that these people give, and वो legacy जिन्होंने उनसे सीखी, be it any masters, Chandigarh particularly, Corbusier particularly, is so strong, embedded in the minds of people who worked with them. Mr. Doshi had a particular style. He would never deviate. My father had these things, and I mean, they are the people who don't get carried away by style, isms, materiality. शीशा आ गया तो साला शीशा लगा दो पूरे तरह. That kind of a thing which they would not deny, but they would actually use it in a very functional way as they were taught. Just talking to my architecture friends, 60 साल पहले ये जो housing बनी, the way they used the accreting system to keep the deep sun away. Maxwell Fry, Jane Drew, the peons' houses. It's truly amazing. And अभी भी हम जब lures use करते हैं, which we do, and we feel that I don't think there is any other way which is so passive architecture which they have done in numerous examples. We would rather spend lakhs of rupees in making highlight in accentuating the air condition rather than use these things. Feel very proud that we have this kind of a system, this kind of a understanding executed in our own India, और उसको हम कभी कभी देखते नहीं हैं. It's my father with Corbusier, John Ray at that time, and beautiful human beings. And one of the biggest lessons which my father tells me, कि to be a great architect, I think one has to be a very good human being. These people respected even the peon, and Mr. John Ray said that let's have one toilet. He said, no sir, but you are the chief architect. He said, no. peon भी वहीं जाएगा, मैं भी वहीं जाऊँगा. So the kind of a democracy which they don't talk about, but they implemented. He would wash his own utensils. He says, कि नहीं, I've eaten in this plate. I'm grateful that you served me, but I washed. They would make wine in their own house, and now we have converted all the museums. We have converted. We means from my office now. His house, which they worked, is now the Perry Genre Museum. The Le Corbusier Center is the first building which they actually worked on. You hear the stories about things getting stolen from Chandigarh and being sold in Christie's and other places. Are you aware of this? So now they steal the furniture and other things, and they're being sold for millions of dollars. As always, the Indian government suddenly, अरे यार ये क्या हो गया? ये तो साला हमारा था, पहले हमारा नहीं था, अब हमारा हो गया. So then they started making inventories and made committees and all that stuff. So suddenly they realized that every small chair, that lamp which is made goes for lakhs of rupees. So the heritage, which now we call it as a modern heritage. Heritage is not something which is, age old and पुराने ज़माने की चीज़ें. वो ज़माना is no heritage now. This is where it is selling more than the पुराना ज़माना heritage. Corbusier never allowed himself to be pictured with anybody unless he wanted. A lot of attribution is there on his personality. He was egoistic and all that stuff, but we know people who worked with him, they said no. They wanted their privacy. They did not want unnecessary disturbance lest their thoughts go astray. They did not want any interference in something, and they did not want people to see what they were doing on the drawing board unless it is complete. I mean, थे तो वो genius ही ना लोग. They were all genius, and that's how it is. And any great architect you pick up world over, even now, modern times. I was talking about Mr. Sanjay Moher to somebody. I mean, those people are, when they're working, they are like horses, cars. I'm trying to refresh your history classes. These are the buildings which my father did on his own. I'm talking about the continuity. This part was missed by the scholars. Corbusier, fine. Then बीच वाले जो हिस्से हैं, जो बीच वाले जो लोगों ने जिन्होंने काम किया, बहुत काम किया, and now people are evolving, and Vikramaditya Prakash, who's a scholar in Washington University, who's son of Mr. Aditya Prakash, he wrote a book on my father. People are now, we're having an exhibition in Madrid on this month end. It was again the foreigners who told us कि साहब जो आपकी कंट्रीब्यूशन है वो कि डॉक्यूमेंटेड नहीं है यार, कमाल हो गया, वाकई नहीं है. We started that ourselves and talked about it. This is a city museum. That's the Museum of Evolution. This is the museum which Corbusier and my father worked on. Corbusier died when the museum was in the foundation stage. There was not even an iota of detail left. It's a great story. So a junior architect बेचारा, वो उसको बोला भाई तुम काम कर रहे थे अब तुम ही बनाओगे. कहते यार, so to come up to that level and think like Corbusier did, he says those were my most torturous 4 years of my life because it was directly compared. अभी भी ये जो म्यूजियम है, it's called Corbusier's Museum. There's a big plaque outside which says we are grateful to Mr. S.D. Sharma who did this. Then this is a city museum. We have 5 museums of architecture in Chandigarh. City museum. Now again on the master plan, it was scribbled as a cross. So it was given to my father. क्या करें इसका? He says there are no plans. So he made a pavilion in Zurich. Are you aware of this? Anybody? Yeah. So he says कि यार कुछ ऐसे लगता है. Translate that into concrete. That's made in steel. Added a ramp, and that became a city museum. That Gurudwara is a Sikh temple based on the turban. And Mr. John Ray said, Shivdatt, you will do this. It was a private commission which came in. So he did it. And John Ray came at the time of inauguration. We have those pictures. And he says, ki, this is the true justice of a disciple, of a person who was, you know, the protege who are very proud of, that he could think like this at that time. 65 columnless hall at that time. Amazing. I mean, we used to first adore, you know, as every son adores his father. Now we do it as an architect. My God, Dad, काम ठीक किया आपने. इस अच्छा ठीक है भाई. साला 90 साल हो गए यहाँ पे. And that's the kind of cafeteria at that time in 60s when modernism was all about cubes and cubism and cubist architectural stuff. He made the first circular cafeteria. So the press published it in the magazine designed. It's either Frank Lloyd Wright's version of architecture. It can't be a person from Chandigarh. But here it was. I mean, first terrace gardens were from Chandigarh. First time John Ray taught us how to use 3-storied, only the brick building. There's no concrete columns. What I'm trying to show you, friends, as architect community, all of us are, I mean, एक बड़ा strong ethos है, influence है in India, where I think we can always go and look back like Mr. Doshi did, and he says, I'm learning architecture, or at least imbibing architecture. One of the persons, because I work in Chandigarh, born, brought up there, and trying to continue the legacy. If somebody would ask me, some student did today, what is the one takeaway from Chandigarh lessons? I think it is the quality of space. We talk about it. All of us talk about it. But उस क्वालिटी को यहाँ अगर फील करना हो ना, it's here. For that matter, any good architecture has that. But somehow Chandigarh में भी ये volume, ये quality of space, इसकी heights, the juxtaposition of geometry, in a rectangle on the right hand side, there is a sudden rotunda of the huge circular, and must have taken some courage for an architect to do this kind of work at that time in brick. So then we have a practice of about 48 years now, and so this is the buildings which we do. People ask us कि आप क्या करते हो? So tell them how we are continuing the legacy. This is buildings in PGI. PGI was a campus designed by John Ray. तो उनका जो vocabulary है, उनका spirit है, ethos है, उसको कायम रखते हुए हम लोग कुछ करना चाहते हैं. So this is a modern building. It's a pediatric center. Has to be in concrete. See the values of Chandigarh. The laws are followed there. Still the civic buildings are in concrete and bricks. And अपने घर हो सकते हैं, but civic buildings have to be in concrete. So nothing stops us from using that natural lights. Not a single artificial lights are on. The structure systems, the cantilevers. This is eye care center. Essentially, these are our office works. Of course, Father is always there too. He's guiding spirit behind all this. But then we work together. As I said, that still there is a vertical columns, the concrete. But nothing, I mean, you're going with the times. You are not, the elevation is not something which is held or captivated or engaged, you know, in time zone. There are people who say, अरे शर्मा साहब ये तो आप थोड़ा सा ना different कर रहे हो. So I don't understand what's different in architecture. It's all about being with the times, and I think that's what these people had. Mr. Doshi, Mr. Kanvinde, Berenger sir, and all those people, Anant Raje sir, my father also, I think they are not with the times, they are ahead of times. I mean, a person who would read 1 hour, हमने तो पढ़ना छोड़ ही दिया after internet. He would read anything for 1 hour and suddenly would call Mr. Doshi up, अरे दोशी साहब आपने वो देखा वो ऐसा करके वहाँ पे in Colombo में ऐसा बन रहा है and all that. They would exchange notes, they would read. One of the finest takeaways from these masters, I think, is to be involved. हमारे जनरेशन में, मुझे समझ नहीं रही कि मैं बूढ़े में हूँ कि मैं जवान में हूँ, बट एनीवे हमारी जनरेशन में हम लोग टाइम जोन कर दिया. 9 to 6 we are office, उसके बाद then we have our own, हमने जिम जाना है, family time, this and that. Those people were always involved, and they tell me कि हम, we may be even looking at you, but the back of the mind, that elevation is going on. I mean, those were the people in Sept. I was talking to ma'am, the Sept jo bana hai, and those people who have brushed the shoulders with Mr. Doshi and other people. I think they have a great regard for their adaptability. This is in JNU in Delhi. Kushav, how much time we have? नहीं, पत्थर मारने से पहले मुझे बता देना सर. तो अब JNU में बना रहे हैं, so naturally there's a stone which is used, so this kind of labs. Father was chief architect in space department, the first department of space in Bangalore. So a lot of hang in handling the services, and that's what brought us closer to laboratory planning. So we do a lot of CSR laboratories. It's a government building. I was showing some buildings in the college. तो जैसे कि सर ये IT बिल्डिंग है क्या? नहीं यार, एक गवर्नमेंट बिल्डिंग है. CPW ने बनाया है. And I was giving them the example. CPW wale people also were so activated. You know, it's how you are motivated. You tend to pass that out on to your workers, to the contractors, other workers. तो ये हमने इन मास्टर से सीखा. I mean, till 10 years ago, we were making a building in Coimbatore, and Dad was making a hospital. Of course, he was the main thing, and I was assisting. He wants to climb on that ladder on the 3rd floor. So everybody was saying, "अरे साहब, मत करो ऐसे." नहीं, I want to see. So चढ़ के ऊपर जाके सरिया चेक कर रहे हैं, and you know. आजकल वो सरिया चेक करने वाली कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है, बिकॉज एवरीबडी सो क्वालिफाइड और दे क्लेम टू बी, कि ज़रूरत नहीं है. बट यू बी शॉक टू नो कि जब ही कुड मेक आउट मिस्टेक्स. अरे यार, ये जो बार्स हैं ये वो ठीक नहीं है, उसमें गलती थी. आई वाज टेलिंग समबडी टुडे कि 25-30 साल के बाद भी अभी भी आई शो माई डिज़ाइन टू हिम. सो ही वुड से कि नहीं संगीत आप ठीक कर रहे हो. को पूछता ना उनको कैसा कर रहा है, ठीक है, ठीक कर रहा है. दो दैट जनरेशन इज स्टिल ठीक है. फॉर हिम सेइंग ठीक है इज अ वेरी बिग थिंग. सो वी सी हिज आईज. आई कीप द प्लान इन फ्रंट ऑफ हिम एंड आई वॉच हिज आईज. जहां पे उनकी आंखें टिक जाती हैं ना, वहां पे गलती होती है. There's an evident error in planning, and you won't say, "No, no, ठीक है ले जाओ." Go back and say, "Oh my God, yeah, horrible toilets I've designed," or whatever. Duct is required, or whatever. So his eyes speak. Those masters are amazing masters. This is the very emblematic, iconic. आजकल हम iconic word किसी और चीज़ के लिए इस्तेमाल करते हैं. I think iconic ये buildings होती हैं जो होती थी, जो एक चलते हुए ट्रेंड को तोड़ देती थी. That was the iconic thing, not the loftiness or the hugeness of something which we do it. So ये तो Capitol Complex, that was my father, that's mine. High Court, that's my father, that's me. So what is being carried forward, and I tell my son also, not the imagery. What you carry forward is the values of architecture. And I think it sounded very poetic to start with. अरे यार ठीक है, architecture is all about values of architecture. ऐसा नहीं है. ऐसा नहीं है. करते करते we realize कि हम भूल जाते हैं वो values. We suddenly get very megalomaniac. नहीं यार, मैं I want to do something out of the world and iconic. We forget, अरे यार इंसान ने रहना उसके अंदर भाई, नीचे आ जाओ. खुद नीचे आएंगे तब वो लोग रहेंगे. So ठीक है, at some places there is a reference point, there are columns, there are brick laddings, but then it's all with the times. It's all with the times as it grows, and shows some very rustic examples, because I'm addressing the fraternity, the architects, and one of the things which Corbusier taught his next generation was the use of extensive colors, because not colors to decorate but to disintegrate, to identify. Yellow is circulation. और हमारे माइंड में, हमारे जहन में yellow is only circulation. If you go to see some thesis and we see some red circulation ना, बड़ा गुस्सा आता है कि नहीं यार circulation तो yellow ही होना चाहिए, as if it's written in Bible. ऐसा नहीं है. But then you understand that this is represent, the colors represent. So he was a great artist, and we learnt a lot from his artwork, and we I particularly like to imbibe a lot of art in the way I conceive the stuff. And Piet Mondrian was an artist at that time, and who would divide the spaces. Highly influenced I am for that matter, because that again came from him. He was a great friend of Picasso. Picasso was a cubist, and like that. Whatever it is, I mean, you need a kind of mental reference. All of us do that. That's how we work. ये louvers अभी भी लगाए हुए हैं, non-AC buildings हैं. It's just a small NIT के अंदर एक hostel है. So I mean, and the last thing which I'm talking about, I'm saying masters again and again because I'm here today only to tell you about that. Who has not seen these projects? It's okay. I mean, this is hand rendered, and one of the beautiful things which masters told my father, I told me, he says कि यार साइग्राफी को ना फील करते हैं, उसको हाथ लगाते हैं. I said that's crazy यार, क्यों हाथ क्यों लगाना है? He said नहीं, do it. Actually साइग्राफी को हाथ लगाते हैं हम लोग, because you are seeing साइग्राफी. We suddenly realize कि my goodness, we are viewing a building through its साइग्राफी. समझ ही नहीं आई 10 साल. हम तो फसाद आगे पीछे करते रह गए. Broken tiles on the top. It's all Chandigarh impact, Chandigarh influence, simplicity, austerity. Those are the places in the washrooms where we gave places to hang clothes. First time in boys hostel. The client wasn't very happy, but then it worked so well. It's a project we're doing in Coimbatore. A lot of people ask me, how did you have an office in Coimbatore? How are you accepted there? तो हमने कहा वो क्या नॉर्थ इंडियंस का कुछ ऐसा कुछ प्रॉब्लम है क्या? तो says actually है. So I think many decades ago Hindi was banned there and this and that. So we have a beautiful relationship. I think architecture brings bondings together and nothing else. This is the kind of campus which we designed for PSG, and great people working with them for last 15, 16 years now. We never applied for any Griha Shri, all that stuff. My dad tells me, masters told him, make a good habitable building. एक green lead तो ऐसी कुछ ये सब होता रहेगा अपने आप. I don't think Mr. Doshi made any green building or Mr. Korea made any lead rated building. It doesn't exist. But they made fantastic buildings for habitat, for the human beings to live, and that's what architecture is all about. I was taught. I'm telling you this. Similarly, aspirations of an engineering college, of a client, but not leaving my understanding about इतनी ब्रीज चलती है वहाँ पे तो डबल ट्रिपल स्टोरी हमने कॉलम दिए. दे वर अगास्त. संगीत साहब ये क्या कर रहे हैं आप? डबल कॉलम. सर इतना अच्छा हवा रहा है ना, आने दो. नाउ दे फील कि यार माय गुडनेस, ठीक है, ठीक कह रहे थे. Trying to discover very simple buildings, nothing much, nothing to open air theatre दे दिया. Steps, I mean we suffer that every day answering them. क्यों? अरे साहब ये प्लेटफॉर्म मिल रहा है फ्री का, स्टेप दे दिए, काम आएगा. Every Saturday now they have concert there. So I think the victory of an architect ultimately becomes when the client says, यार वो उस टाइम मैंने कुछ बोला था लेकिन आज ठीक लग रहा है. बोलते नहीं क्लाइंट्स ऐसे, बट अगर बोल दे तो अच्छा लगता है. The connectivity of the corridors and and then the water bodies when the breeze comes in. So this became quite a nice looking campus, and this is a museum of technology which is coming, is under completion, and the left hand side is a school of architecture. तो एक अच्छा एक proposal जब उनको दिया, it always takes a little time to tell them that why we need this kind of thing, and it's a technology museum, sir, and all that blah blah which we do, and so they agreed. So this school of architecture was initially a library, and then they said they want to open a school of architecture, because we went to some school of architecture, and so I asked him, sir, आपको school of architecture क्यों चाहिए? He says there's a lot of glamour in architecture. I said, I see. So that's why you want school of architecture. So anyway, it's a school of architecture which we made, and incidentally they said कि संगीत साहब आपने बनाया, आपने affiliate करवाया, अब साले को चलाओ. So now I'm the design chair of this. I never wanted to be. So these are the, and a huge auditorium which we made there, and the story is that there's an Avinashi road which runs here, and the campus is here. So the site is in between it. So had I made something magnanimous, it would spoil the view. So it had to be something curved so that my views are not blocked, and the importances of the highway. And Corbusier से किसी ने पूछा कि why is High Court a Secretariat building placed like this against the hills? Why these are the hills? Why it couldn't be like this? अगर हम बनाएंगे तो एटलीस्ट अगर मैं बनाता तो it would be like अरे सबको व्यू मिलेगा ना, अच्छा से देखने को मिलेगा. He says this is a monument. I can't create another monument in front of this monument, and therefore the 300 long secretariat is placed like this. What a genius! What a क्या बोले ऐसे लोगों को. इमेजिन ऐसा बना दिया होता, सारा व्यू सारी सड़कों के ऊपर we would see that concrete structure which is otherwise beautiful, but you wouldn't really like to block the natural hills. Next time when you come to Chandigarh, you will enjoy all this. It's of course state of the art, and ambitious clients, that doesn't mean they would let us a very free hand. The moment they see that I'm going a little overboard in my aspirations, they would catch me. I was telling ma'am that वो book में in the castles in the air में मैंने सारे पहलू लिखे हुए हैं. But then this corridor around the auditorium and this triangulation, the trepidation of the structure system was so engrossing. It was so beautiful that you encircle the whole auditorium in this passage of light, and then you enter into this, and this is the rest is all of us know. I'm just trying to say the inferences. लेगेसी जो आगे जा रही है उसकी वैल्यूज को ही हम आगे लेके जा रहे हैं. I mean, if somebody asked me, I did a small auditorium in Solan in hills near Shimla, and the VC said, Mr. Sharma, you're from Chandigarh? Yes, sir. Said, एक बढ़िया सा concrete building बनाने का. मैं क्यों सर? You're from Chandigarh? अरे यार चंडीगढ़ में साला कि और कोई मटेरियल नहीं मिलता क्या? I said, sir, I will not do this project. It's not done. So to educate him, it took me 2 months. I was expelled once. He called me again. Then we made a very beautiful structure, similar to one they make in Himalayas, blended in the hills. I don't think I have a picture there. So which I think half of our life is spent in becoming the psychologists, educating foolish people of what architecture should be, because उनके पैसे खर्चते हैं हम लोग. Nicely done landscapes, and the rental of this is 15 lakh rupees per day. I said, साहब इतनी तो मेरी फीस नहीं थी यार जितनी आपने लेते किराया लेते हो. This is the project, the hospital which brought us into Coimbatore, and 75-year-old establishment. They never had a practicing architect for 75 years यार. उनका वो जो इंजीनियर थे वही बनाते थे, डब्बे बना दिए, ये खड़ा कर दिया, but they survived. First time we presented in a competition, they asked me कि Mr. Sharma, why should we hire you? हम 75 साल से वो काम कर रहे हैं, तुम इतना क्या कर दोगे? I had no actually answer. ऐसे तो मैं तो कुछ नहीं कर पाऊंगा सर, तो मैं जा रहा हूँ, because I know this is the answer which I can't give, but try me once, and I'll send you some drawings. So उनको ये ड्राइंग भेजा. They were existing hospital here, उनका लिंक बनाया इनका, and they were quite happy. They realized that a qualified architect is quite an asset rather than something which they save money on. Most of the people, particularly in India, they think like that. One of the greatest things which we did, friends, is जो people who come attendants, उनके लिए हमने ये landscape area बनाया where they would admit the patient and come and sit here. Again, it was not very accepted, but now it works so well, and सारा crowd बाहर रहता है. Some of the images broken the existing scenario of how the hospital looked like, and again I shut them into a different world which they realized that, my goodness, they were missing. Wards were large and highly ventilated. Same things which you and I talk here. That's okay. But the idea was an opportunity to implement it, and implement it rightly. At the back of my mind, that thing is working with me. Human values, human comfort. Those things were working, and I think that's where this thing. ये जो अनसेवरी एस्पेक्ट्स है ना हमारे प्रोफेशन के, वो मैंने इस किताब में लिख दिए. इट्स कॉल्ड कासेस इन द एयर. दे आस्क्ड मी क्यों लिखी आपने? दिए द रीजंस. कुछ भी ऐसी चीज बता दो इसमें नहीं होती, सब होती है, मतलब बुरा हाल है. सो दे प्रॉम्प्टेड मी टू राइट. इसके बड़ी एक इंटरेस्टिंग नैगिंग वाइफ्स भी है. My wife is an architect, and we know what is. Where you have a family where your father is an architect, and a big one, and your wife is an architect, and your son has just joined you, क्या clash होते हैं वो मैं जानता हूँ. I mean, my mother says कि यार भैया, I won't have food with you. I mean, all these things became so beautiful as a compelling thing for me to write this book. Must read it. I can send you all buy it. It's very beautiful. I say that joke at the end of the day is on me. आपके ऊपर नहीं है, आपके ऊपर नहीं है, मेरे ऊपर है, सब आपके ऊपर है. And then I asked somebody, यार sketches बना दो. हम नहीं बना सकते. So I made my sketches myself. Art of ragging, hostel life, exams, jury. They are the titles of the book. And they would say कि यार वो आपने बड़ी कैंडिड इमोशनल किताब लिखी थी, आर्किटेक्चर लाइफ एंड मी, तो वही चाहिए ना. हाँ यार, ये हाउ कैन यू राइट ऑल दिस? आई सेड व्हाई? व्हेन आई एम होल्डिंग अ पेंसिल आई एम एन ऑथर यार. I mean, I'm not an architect. It's a different ball game, it's a different personality. And a senior person, without naming him, he says कि आपने कुछ कस वर्ड्स यूज किए हैं इसके अंदर. ऐसा सर, जब हॉस्टल में हम कैसे बात करते थे, ऐसी बात करते थे ना. हाँ, तो मैं ऐसे ही लिखूंगा ना. If I'm talking about communication between two students and what they did, I won't tell you what they did, and it's all there. But I wrote it. And they say, how did you know what girls do in hostel? मैं कहा यार ये तो point है. I was in Lucknow and I veiled myself in the burqa and I spent one full day and half a night there. Intention गलत नहीं थी, मुझे सिर्फ देखना था कि वो क्या करते हैं और कानों को हाथ लगाया कि भाई वो जो कर सकती है हम नहीं करते हैं. But I wrote it and it's a very interesting readable book. You know, people start, it's unstoppable. Training time, interns क्या, intern तो नहीं यहाँ पे कोई है? अच्छा, कोई बात नहीं, नहीं आपके ऊपर नहीं है, जनरली बात कर रहा हूँ मैं. Interns क्या करते हैं, कैसे होते हैं, how do you work with them, what they do, what they want, family affair. Architects meet में हम लोग क्या करते हैं, house design. I made only one house in my life. I never made after that. I mean, bloody hell यार, वो तो the whole family. बच्चा आता, अंकल मेरा कमरा ऊपर चाहिए. मदर इन लॉ टेल्स मी, बेटा मेरा कमरा नीचे बनाना, बहू को नहीं बताना. डॉटर लॉ कम टेल मी, सर मेरा कमरा नीचे बनाना, मम्मा को नहीं बताना. मैं कहा भाई मुझसे नहीं होगा ये. आई टेल माय वाइफ, तू संभाल. आई मीन, यू आर becoming a psychologist, you are trying to educate them in these things. सर ये मेरे बस की बात नहीं. That's the first and the last I wrote, very descriptive in those things. Teaching architecture, I won't speak much. कविता मारेगी मुझे बहुत, इसने बुलाया मेरे को. But then there are interesting things how we did. Thesis में हम लोग क्या करते थे और क्या करते हैं. How do we get work? This is amazing write up. Prime contractors कैसे होते हैं. And evergreen consultants हमारा नाश मार देते हैं. Clients की fantasies कैसी होती हैं साली. Agreement of architects, useless piece of paper, utterly useless piece of paper. I mean, and what we think is we are the messiahs of society. People say इससे बेवकूफ आदमी कोई नहीं है. Anyway, there's a little breakage. 5 more minutes? 5 minutes only? Yeah. Working for IIT Roorkee, and they said हमारे पास एक ना 120 साल पुरानी की एक बिल्डिंग है. It's called Thompson Building. There's a huge dome on it, which at the time, colonial time, so that's our best building. So fine, sir. So made this department, gave them some signatures, made some nice looking, and I was telling in the morning, blessed are the architects, we get the worst of sites. Most horrible site जो है वो सारा हमें मिलता है. नॉर्थ फेसिंग, लंबा साइट है नॉर्थ फेसिंग. क्या करें यार. Devised certain methodologies in triangulation, getting light from left and right. वही जो सीखा हमने उसको अप्लाई किया. बैक एलिवेशन, this is what you see from the top, binding forces them together. Give them first time atrium. That cantilever was 26 feet, and CPWD said, "ये आप affidavit पे लिख के दो, it will not fall." So I said, मैं क्यों दूंगा यार, तुम लोग साला CPWD 100 साल पुराना, नहीं आप लिख के दो. So went to my engineer, talked to him, he says, संगीत लिख दे तू. मैं कहा सर आप नहीं लिखोगे, तो मैं नहीं लिखूंगा, तू लिखेगा. Anyway, I had faith in him, I wrote it. And this is zinc cladding. He says, sir, why zinc? He says, वहाँ पे जब chip off हो जाएगा ना, या पेंट खराब हो जाएगा, कौन चढ़ेगा ऊपर? That logic sold very well. And truthfully speaking, so this building came out pretty nicely. And recently, just 2 साल हुए हैं इसको. So now this is the emblem of on their calendars. This is a laboratory which we do in Chandigarh. It's I mean the elevation, the form, it's all derivations of the same back end coming in. Enmeshed in geometry is what we are always taught and talk about. Those areas, it's a conference room which also acts as a porch. So again, it's a government building made by CPWD. I feel like those masters used to tell us. Now I realize कि अगर आप खुद उसमें बहुत ज़्यादा involved हो, there is a logic to everything, something convincing, and they understand that you're not doing for your megalomaniac interest, and you want to create a Taj Mahal on my money. So once they understand that, I think they give in, and it comes very, very nicely. This is what you see from the top. It's a small building with a corridors on the side, eliminating the services which are cumbersome. Very geometrical piece of sharing. This is a deep in Punjab, where again the brick and fraternity of architecture. I think talking like this to the fellow architects revives me, and it tells you where you go wrong, where you go right. Thank you for coming, each one of you. Really, I'm really blessed.